I didn't think this was very important for me to talk about, but Spirit Team keeps kicking me down the road. Like, you got to talk about this. You got to talk about this. So, little bit of a funny haha personal story, and then a little bit of a personal share inside baseball, what goes on with social media, and some of us a little larger psychic players on the app. So let's talk about BFWs. What a BFW is? Well, this connects back to so this is like right around 2018-ish, and I'm living in the North Fork of the Gunnison with my then husband Bob, and right around the 2018 mark, I had gotten to know what was going on in the spiritual community a little bit better, what was going on and where I was positioned with all of that, and then of course what was going on with my own business, The Magic of Somatic Money. And there's a business in that valley called Heart of the Dragon. Kata and Michael run it. Two very lovely people, very hardworking, really really working hard to get the metaphysical stuff out into the community, but also do their business, do their shop. And as I had gotten to know the spiritual community in the North Fork of the Gunnison, of course, Kata and I began to get to know one another, and she invited me to have a picnic coffee out in the park, the Peonia Park, one day. And I'm like, of course, I'd love to do that. So we got together, we got our coffees and went out to the park. And the thing you need to know about this park is it's an old park, and it's an established park. So it's that grassy lawn thing that's all kind of bumpy, and the trees are huge. It's like you walk in, it's just this magnificent cathedral of trees. And, a lot of times I would go there just sometimes to take a break and really get the feeling of the trees. And so it was that kind of place that Kata and I met. And the park was not very full. It was pretty empty. And on this particular day, so she starts telling me these stories about, BFW this and BFW that. And I'm sitting there thinking, I got to break it to her. I don't know what BFW is, like hashtag BFW. What are we talking about here? And finally I was like, Kata, you got to let me in on this. And she's like, oh, honey, you don't know about the BFWs? And I'm like, no, I don't. What are they? And she's like, honey, BFW is big fucking witch. It kind of hit me. And then, oh my God, I started laughing and laughing. I just threw my head back and just, right? BFW, big fucking witch. Okay, so that was my introduction to this whole idea of women in the metaphysical community, more on the witchy side with really big egos. And, I wasn't a foreigner to that. I kind of knew that. But this is where I want to distinguish that there's this whole thing in the spiritual community. There's a fairly strong inside cultural push that if you're a woman and you're coming into the spiritual community, there's a lot of support for you to be demure, for you to keep your tone quiet, keep it softened down. We kind of keep it inside the box for it to be a little bit more politically correct. There's over the years, what I've noticed with the spiritual community, there's a lot of that goes on. And quite frankly, I think a lot of this gets transplanted from the Christian community into the spiritual community. Because in the Christian community basically grooms women to sit down, shut up, take care of everything, don't be messy, don't paint outside the lines, take care of everything, basically the free labor for the patriarchy, right? Well, a lot of that got transferred into the spiritual communities. What I love about the spiritual community is there's so much color and so many characters and so much going on, but there is this sense of you kind of got to do your spirituality inside the four squares. And so to have Kata sit there and talk with me about the BFWs in the community, I thought that was hilarious and refreshing and kind of wonderful. My path went on, and that was one that I tucked away for myself. And I really didn't think of myself as a BFW, but I also didn't think of myself as an inside the box spiritualist either. I wasn't I never really felt like I was somebody that was going to have to toe the line. And so, on my own, I've like broken a lot of spiritual rules and done a lot of things differently and painted outside of the box. And when it created friction, I just kind of went off and did it on my own anyway. And then when I really started doing my magic of somatic money, and that created a lot of friction in the spiritual community, it creates friction in the business community. I guess over a period of time, I've kind of had to become my own BFW on my own. And I think that's where I learned this idea of, I think, somewhere along the lines, I had this awakening of like, oh, that whole kill the ego thing, that's bullshit. There's another spiritual woman on the apps here, and she talks about in depth about how the killing of the ego really is for the patriarchy, because the patriarchy has had this whole free reign of authority and running things, and they're the ones needing to work on their ego. So when you give the killing of the ego task to a woman, she's already had to kill her ego for a very, very long time. And when you give her that task, you're actually dismantling her to a point of non-functionality. And when I began to, now nobody ever told me that, I had to figure that out on my own. And so when I ran across this other woman's work, and I'll try and find her and tag her and put it here. When I ran across this other woman's work and she was talking about that, I was like, oh, there it is. And it's this whole idea of like, women in the spiritual community, it's actually quite healthy to have some ego. It's quite healthy to stand up and be able to play with your ego and use your voice and be more messy and paint outside of the lines, because we have not been allowed to do that for centuries. And so to me, in the spiritual community, being able to have a little bit more of an ego and a BFW attitude about it is actually a healthy thing. Okay. So, and I've been tucking all these things away, just kind of keeping them to myself. Well, now we fast forward. We fast forward now to the fall happened, and I had some videos, go viral, and what Spirit Team has been grooming me for and like coaching me on and developing me on for the last couple of years. All of a sudden, I'm on a platform to be able to do it. And that's great. And so I'm like learning how to like speak out, do it more, finding out more of who I am. And in the middle of all of that confluence, I attracted in some BFWs. They probably wouldn't call themselves BFWs, but they're BFWs, right? And I attracted them in and I started interacting with them. And I began to find out, where I'm at with my energy work and where I'm at with my emotional work and where I'm at with my mental work and even my physical somatics, a lot of where I'm at with that began bouncing off of some people and creating some friction. And my thought was like, oh, good God, here we go again. Like same thing, same pattern, just on a lot larger platform, people. And I literally had that like screech, pull in the reins and go, oh boy, here I go again. What am I going to do with it this time? Because all the other times, I've been in smaller community. I've been able to kind of couch it a little bit, but not this time on a really large platform, right? Okay. And the space that I finally came to, the space that I finally came to is this, that I have worked way too hard. I have sacrificed way too much, not for me to be me. And when I arrived at that place and gave myself permission for me to be me, for me to be ultimately my BFW and embrace my healthy feminine ego and embrace who I am and embrace all of that and be able to vulnerably share that with you, like, that's exactly why I'm here. Okay? So now, in the middle of all of this was having some interactions with these other BFWs. Somewhere along the way, I got invited into a larger circle. And I think publicly, the thing that I want to say the most is to get invited into the circle of the larger circle of the BFWs. is huge honor, high honor. Like when I got that invitation, it brought me to tears, and I had a feeling of like, wow, this is a really big moment for me, because everything I've done in my life, you know, there's no diplomas, there's no awards, there's no recognition. Like that just doesn't exist for someone like me, because I'm pioneering out on the edge where it's controversial, right? So to get an invitation like that, to me, that was a moment of like an acknowledgement, a high honor, and it was really like, oh my God, I got invited in. Huge deal, high honor. And then I looked at the circle of people in there, and I was like, oh boy, I'm going to cause trouble and, you know, make good trouble. And I'm probably going to break things like I usually break things because I can't keep my mouth shut. And I looked at the whole thing, and I'm like, you know, for the sake of the group, for the sake of the community, I probably just better bow out and back off on this. And so what I will say is this. If there are some of you out there watching some spiritual women circle up, larger spiritual women circle up, and there's a group going on, just know I was invited, and that was a very high honor for me, and I declined. That was my conscious choice. I declined, okay? And the women who are doing this group and doing this circle, I think it's huge. I think it's amazing. I think it's fantastic that they are doing this, because this is service to community. And all of us, we are at different places along our paths. Everybody needs something different. Like I provide something different for a grouping of certain people. Am I for everyone? No, I don't purport to be for everyone. But the deal is that this group going on and this collective going on, it's really important. Totally supportive of it. I am glad they are doing it. High honor for me that I got invited in. It's okay that I'm not there. And I just, wish them well with the circling that they are doing and the service that they are going to be able to provide for people. Okay. So that said, I hope you walk away from this video gaining clarity on there's so many different ways to do spirituality, and we're all in so many different areas of our path, and each one of us has our own purposes and our own focus and our own mission, and we cannot make those apples and oranges comparisons. And this is where it's really important to see that and honor that and respect that, because quite frankly, the BFW, the big fucking witch, we have been crucified for centuries, and the fact that we all get to gather and the fact that there are circlings that are happening, as far as I'm concerned, are an amazing miracle. I mean, this is us succeeding at a level that we haven't been able to succeed at for centuries. And so I hope in your life you figure out what is right for you with your own healthy feminine ego, BFW, and explore that and enjoy that and be a part of reveling in the BFW healthy ego of yourself as you are along your own spiritual path. And just know that you do not have to stuff yourself down into a spiritually demure box. I will leave that with you, and make sure you keep walking so the miracles can meet you along the way. I will see you in the next video.